Hello and welcome to episode 126 of The Imperial Truth. I'm your host, Greg, and joining me today, we've got a very special guest, Mr. Jason Mullins.
Hi, everybody. How you doing?
Yeah, how you doing, man? I'm good.
Good. It's been a while since I've been on the airwaves.
Yeah.
I've been on sabbatical, I guess. It's the easiest way to put it.
Yeah, something like that. So one of these Sons of Heresy. It's quite funny because when I put up my Sons of Heresy episodes, there's always at least one person who's like, "Oh, I thought it was new episodes from the other guys." But that's because you guys told me that name and then told me that your podcast was never going to happen. So I was like, "Yeah, I can use that then. Yeah, cool. Yeah, excellent, thanks." And then it happened.
Yeah, I think it was John. That Johnny was like, "Oh, we definitely need to be called Sons of Heresy," and Brendan and I were like, "Yeah, that sounds perfect." Yeah. So yeah, sorry, Greg. That was our bad.
It's all good. No, well, it's fine.
I'm going to throw Johnny under the bus. I will blame him.
Well, he's not here, so that's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah, too right.
It would be the first time one of us got thrown under the bus on a podcast.
No, well, that's the power of having the microphone. So
exactly,
it's all good. Before we go anywhere else, just a quick shout out for Element Games for all your toy goodness. Yeah, I mean, we're at Christmas now. You're getting those vouchers and monies in. You can put your order in with them, and if it's stuff they've got in stock, it's not on pre-order. Sometimes it turns up like the next day. It's fantastic. It's so good. So yeah, go check out Element Games. Well, we got you on to do like the intro and stuff like that. We haven't heard your voice in a while. We had a little chat the other day and talking about what you're up to. But we're gonna run through like the intro with you.
Cool.
So we've had some. I mean, how have you felt? Actually, before we do that, you've had a quieter year on the hobby front.
I have, yeah. I mean, just because mainly work and getting life together. I got married, which took up a lot of time and sort of sidetracked me from hobby stuff, as you well know.
Yes.
Yeah, but mainly I've been starting actually just recently to get back into doing a lot more hobby stuff. I actually kind of got dragged into it again by work. A lot of the art team likes actually playing Kill Team at my work.
Cool.
So we took over the foosball table. We made a topper from they ordered new chairs. So we made a topper out of boxes and we just started like playing Kill Team at work, which is fine, right? It's not heresy, but it was definitely doing some hobby.
Yeah.
And that kind of really dragged me back into doing more hobby again.
Yeah, well, we're definitely a podcast that supports all kinds of hobbying. Have fun the way you want to have fun. We're not here to prescribe any way of having fun. And yeah, if you can play games at work with work colleagues, then yeah, you're doing better than me. Put it that
exactly.
way. So.
Well, and this is the nice thing about Kill Team because we can do a game in a lunchtime, right? So I think this is what just naturally, because they're 40K players and I mainly play Heresy, so we kind of met in the middle at Kill Team. But it's been nice because it sort of relaunched me back into the hobby and kind of like armies, and I can get into what I've been working on later if you want, or now. I'm not sure.
We'll do it in a bit. So 2019, congrats on getting married.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we've talked a bit about life gets in the way of hobby, and it has to take precedence. Have you kept up with what's been going on in the heresy scene over that time?
Mainly just keeping an eye on Forge World, like the new tank that came out, which
Saber.
looks awesome. Yeah, I was my only comment about the Saber was I'm so surprised at what a small little guy it is, but it's so cool looking.
Yeah.
I definitely was eyeing that and kind of wondering which force that something like that would go well with.
Sure.
I really liked too that it looked like they made it so it would be easily swappable. So you could buy all of the different guns. You could just buy one chassis, and then you could just have a tank with the different guns. And that was an amazing idea to me too. I just really appreciated it and just kind of dug it. And it came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The guy was working on it during his lunchtime as a way of proving to Forge World that he can do, as far as I'm aware, that I'm cool with this. I can handle this, which is that's cool. Fair play. And this came out of it. So, have you read the Road to Thramus bit as well that appeared on Warhammer Community?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Oh, this is the
build up to the next book, The Dark Angels.
No, I looked at it and just scanned through it,
Sure.
but I'd not had time to look at it yet. I actually forgot because it came out while I was at work and someone linked it to me, and I was like, "Oh, I'll read that later." And then,
I mean, it's not huge amounts of information. It's a pre-release like little hint at what's coming with some cool pictures. Although there was some. They did mention a name of a new special character that's coming out and a title of. There's a title of someone who oversaw the extinction of a race, I think it is.
wait, was this the hexagramma something? Or?
Yeah, well, the hexagramma is the 6 wings. So that's Deathwing, Ironwing, all that jazz, should we say? But there was a title, I think it was like Escalion or something like that. Oh, God blimey, you're testing me now. In fact, I'm just pulling up. Man looks stuff up on the
everybody
internet.
at home is just like shouting like the name.
Oh, I was very close. So in Crusade, you also find rules for Marduk, Cedras, and Eschaton of the Dreadwing. Which is it's a cool name in itself. And then it's got 2 little stars and a footnote. Eschaton is a title used within the Dreadwing to denote a warrior that has overseen the final death of an entire race or world.
And the Dreadwing is their destroyer wing, right?
Yeah, the Dreadwing's the final resort. So the Dreadwing is the one written about in... what was the book called? The one that Gav wrote, Angels of Caliban, which is when the Dreadwings formed... different people from all over the Legion who are part of the Dreadwing, who normally sit in another place, are pulled together, and they use the weaponry that no one else would. So yeah, we're going to see some real interesting kind of stuff come out from them. But the fact that they've got a title for someone who's overseen the death of a planet or an entire race is pretty awesome. You're getting proper dark metal with that kind of thing, which is groovy. But so you've sort of taken a back seat this year.
Yeah.
Do you feel like now coming back in and finding out and getting back into the groove? Does it feel like it's a different? I don't want to say hobby or company or whatever. Do you feel like they're approaching it in a different way? Does it feel different?
So what I've kind of noticed, like, it was sort of strange because I feel like my like slowdown in the heresy sort of coincided with what it felt like a slowdown in the heresy from Forge World.
Sure.
Just stuff coming out. And now, like, as I'm starting to get back into it, coincidentally, I feel like with the Road to Thramus and all of this stuff coming out, like, it's starting to pick back up. Like, I do definitely notice more stuff coming out. There was another tank that came out the other day, like the Bombard thing, which was really neat too. Which the thing that looks like a flipped around Sakaran. Yeah. That was just, again, like, to me, out of nowhere and really cool.
The Arquita Bombard. That's also in that article. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really happy that they've been releasing stuff and, like, they've been pacing it and coming out. I mean, we have the new Blood Angel Dawnbreaker guys that came out, which I think look really good. Like, I think they're really cool. Interesting, like, that they kind of harken to the Sanguinary Guard with the weapons on their arms, the grenade launcher. I thought it was kind of a nod to the Sanguinary Guard. They look really good. Strange thing is, I really like them, and I'm not sure. I don't love the Destroyer version guys that came out before them, which I just found funny because I was, like, not expecting to love these guys so much when they came out. I was like, oh, these guys are amazing. Really cool. They look very heresy. I love the old school jetpacks that they have. Just a really, really good unit. What about you? What are your favorite things that have come out, like, over the last couple of months?
I think the Saber's there because the Saber came out of nowhere, and I think there's always that element of when they drop something that you haven't, and this is so people always want the previews. They always want to know what's coming. You know, part of being a human is having that little bit of knowledge, like not being caught, not staring into the unknown. But what happens when we get a real surprise drop then is you get that rush of feeling that you don't get when things are drip fed to you. And I think that helps. And that Saber tank was just like the perfect little drop. It came out of nowhere. It looks kind of cute. Its rules aren't stunning, but aren't bad at all. And it fits in a fast attack slot as well, which all just helped. And it just looks funky, looks cool. And then the fact they made it modular. So, we talked about this last episode. I talked about this, but we're going to get a regular update once a month on the road to Thramus in the build up to the book. That's not something they've never done before. We've got we've had them talking about more regular articles or just stuff coming out for the readers in nature of having stuff on Warhammer Community. We're not getting a weekender, cool. I've talked about that on the show to death, so we'll move on from that. It's disappointing, but hey, if what we get from that is more of this stuff, then I'm up for it. And it hasn't really stopped. We've had, in the last few weeks, we've had some good releases as well. So it feels pretty positive to me. And it feels like...
Yeah, I completely agree.
And you're right. So we'll talk a little bit on Dawnbreaker. And there's been some interesting chat on this. Some people don't like the models. That's fine. That's cool. I'm all for that. Some people think they look a little bit lazy. I can't agree with that. I think there are design aesthetic choices that have been made. And I don't think... I think sometimes you're just... At the end of the day, I've seen more people say they like them, but the people who say they don't like them really didn't like them. So I don't think there's anything that can be done. I'm like, what more do you expect? We haven't also seen them in the flesh. So, were these models pre-production models? They're the ones they painted, because they quite often are. And then some people are saying the paint job isn't as good. But Forge World, for units, the paint job hasn't been... It's not heavier metal, and it's not character series level paint jobs. So whether they should paint them better or not, it doesn't really bother me at the end of the day.
The thing I like about these guys is compared to the Destroyer unit that came out, I can't remember their actual name off the top of my head, was that I like that these guys have the little extra trills and the extra little kind of decorations and stuff. And that looked very Blood Angels to me. And that's, again, why I liked it. I mean, I think it just fits with the aesthetic. I thought that worked very well for me. The other guys were a little bit plain, even though they were the kind of special destroyers. And in a way, I was kind of disappointed with them because in the description, it says they have like silver masks. And I was expecting, and wrong or right? I was expecting actual like death masks or something. Yeah. And it's not a bad thing. I was just, for like me making Blood Angels, I'd be like, that's cool. I'll just mod those to kind of have death masks. You can grab the Sanguinary masks, easily make death mask, and make exactly what you want.
And I think there's a small element of the community, and it's not who, saying this in the right way, who always have expectations that I don't think can be met.
Yep.
And maybe, and it's not, I'm not calling them out like, oh my God, but maybe just some people need to rein in those expectations. At the end of the day, there are many ways that people might perceive these to be done. They're not always going to be done perfectly. There are a few people who seem to have a problem with CAD, computer-aided design. On a fundamental level, they've got a problem with it. And part of me wants to tell these people that if you've got a problem with CAD design, this hobby's not going to be for you, because, but it's not, is it? The modern way is to CAD design things. I think some of them don't really understand what they're saying as well. I think there's an element of people, oh, that's CAD, and therefore that's a problem. Where actually it might have just been, a design choice within the computer aided design.
I noticed like when they first started, when the Space Wolf stuff came out, I think there was a couple of foul ups that happened, and now I don't really notice it. Right? Like, it was it. I think it looks fine. I think it makes it easier for them to design it, and it also makes the models better because, like, I don't know. I mean, you've probably noticed this. Like, But like the newer models, like the Leviathan and stuff, they come together. They have points for magnets. You get stuff like the Saber, which has interchangeable parts, right? Like because all of this stuff can be designed on a computer and they can put parameters around it, it's really easy to swap around. They can make these things modular. They can make these things go together easier. They can save resin and us time and make a better design. And yeah, I highly approve of it.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they don't make missteps, and I'm not saying that there aren't advantages to hand sculpting things. I think, and basically, I think in essence, 90% of what the modern process gives us is a positive thing, or at least certainly not negative on what's come before. That doesn't mean every single thing they produce is going to be perfect, because that's impossible.
No, you don't have to like everything that they come out with, and you don't have to hate everything either. Like, yeah, exactly.
I think people just pointing at something and going, CAD is like a coverall. Like, I don't like that. I'll blame it on CAD.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also there's millions of people, thousands of people who love this stuff. You can't please everyone. Not even all the time. Like, even some of the time, you can't please everyone. So,
and I think this goes to like a little bit of like when people are getting into the hobby and then they ask me, what should they play? What's good?
Yeah.
And what I will tell them is play what you think looks cool. Because, I mean, A, this is expensive. B, you're going to have it for a long time.
Yeah.
It's going to take you forever to work on. If you think it's cool and you like working on it, it's great. And so many armies are already out with so many cool pieces. And if you don't like the Blood Angels aesthetic, then, play White Scars.
Yeah.
It's just my opinion, right?
Yeah,
like,
I think, the amount of times I've sat down to work at something, and actually I'm selling all my Mechanicum, because I couldn't work out why I wasn't painting them. And the reason I wasn't painting them was because I just wasn't enjoying it. And I don't enjoy painting anyway, but I just couldn't face going back and painting another however many whatever I was painting in that colour scheme in that way. And so
I totally understand, actually, completely.
And I think if you've been in this hobby long enough, you've had an army that you've bought, and then you've looked at it and you realise after 3 weeks of thinking, I need to paint that model, I avoid going in there, I avoid getting it out because I don't want to paint it. And I'm like, well, actually there's a problem here. So if I'm not going to paint it and I don't want to, let's just get rid of it. Let's get something I do want. And all of a sudden you're then like, I want to work on that model. And you get out, you paint it. So, and there's nothing wrong in admitting that. Like, if you can cut that off before you get to that point, you can save yourself a lot of time and a lot of money. Yep. Forge Well resin does hold its value fairly well, but you're still going to lose money. So, but yeah, absolutely. I like the Dawnbreakers. I think they're fantastic. Those jetpacks, they're sort of like the engines from Episode 1 Star Wars on the pod racer.
Oh, yeah.
They've got a little bit of that feel about them, which is cool, in my opinion. I think they're pretty damn groovy.
I wasn't expecting them to look like this exactly, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thought they looked great. I think they look really good. I think 80%, 90% maybe of the Blood Angel stuff that's come out, I think has been amazing for me. And again, like, you're not going to like everything. So I'm not like, oh, they ruined it. Like, I'm like, no, it looks really good. I don't really like the Destroyer guys as much. But that just means that I would have a chance to then make my own, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and making your own doesn't have to be sculpting. Like, there's so many parts out there you can kit bash.
What? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, carry on.
Oh, I was going to say what the real problem is for me is when they come out with something that I love when I've already kit bashed my own thing, and then I'm like, oh man. Like, so for anybody who has made these destroyers, you're stoked.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't like them. Yeah, exactly. Like, and I've had that problem, especially with my Space Wolves, right? Like, because there's so many units that they've come out with, and I've been like, oh, this is really cool. I still don't have a Space Wolves Dreadnought, not a Contemptor. Not that I don't love it, but I have 2 Contemptors, and I'm like, do I need a third one?
Well, that's a stupid question. And you talking about the Saber tank, my friend wanted one, and they went out of stock quite early because I think all the guns sold out basically, because you can still buy part of it. And I've just gone back online to look, and it's all out of stock now, except for the Volkite gun. So the gun that's possibly the least kind of effective in the game is the only one that's available. The rest of it's all out of stock. So the sabers are selling, which is a good thing to see.
The little neutron gun is great.
Oh, it's amazing.
I was like, you could just pop around the corner and shut down a super heavy or somebody's tank.
I've seen some people saying, it's not very good, and I'm sitting there thinking, really? Like, you must have a very different play style to me, because and I know some people have said, effectively it's much worse than a javelin, and I'm like, this tank can't be brought down by bolt guns, or by heavy bolters in the front. Like, the javelin is an amazing piece of kit in game when you look at the rules, the points costs, and everything that's attached to it. Right? Don't get me wrong, fantastic piece of kit. These aren't bad. Like, maybe they're not quite as good, but they have a slightly different role, and they can do some very cool stuff. And and you can shut down a big tank with them.
The neutron laser one, to me, just rules wise, seemed very viable.
It's the first one I went to,
because you can just hide this little teeny tank, pop out and shoot someone's tank and shut it down, whether it be whatever it is. Like, that's great for that little teeny under 100 points, I believe, tank, right? Like, it's perfect. I love it. And then you can have your javelins come and blow it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And at the end of the day, they're both cool and within different legions and different rights of wars and everything else. But I just they were dismissed instead of a javelin. And I'm like, I wouldn't dismiss them. I'd put them in the same conversation. But for different reasons. So it's good to see. Did you see we got the Death Corps, a re-release of some Death Corps and some and the Gorgon?
I saw that. Okay, so I saw that the Death Corps popped back up, and I was wondering because I thought that they'd gotten rid of them, and then so now are they back, or is it a limited time thing?
Well, no, they're back. You can still, and it's a bundle. It's a platoon, and I wonder if this is the way forwards to make sure that they're selling enough to make of each different type. So the problem always becomes like how many heavy weapons teams are you going to sell, or how many whatever you're going to sell. It needs to be viable for them in their pricing structure. By selling an infantry platoon, they're selling a number of different stuff. They've got a known quantity of each that they're going to sell.
It looks like the actual. You just made me log on and look. It looks like you can actually buy a squad of Krieg too without the big bundle. Yeah, there are the big bundles.
Oh, okay. In which case, maybe they just brought it back because it's the.
Yeah.
Oh yes, no, you can.
No, I saw what you were saying. Like that's why I went to go look because who doesn't like Death Corps?
Well, I mean, maybe they bundled it up for Christmas.
That's probably
fair play.
Yeah.
But it's the fact they brought it back is good news for Krieg stuff. So maybe I got that wrong. That's a good shout. There's lots of cool. I mean, there's actually 5. When you put Krieg in, there's 5 pages, and some of them are vehicles and stuff. But there's some cool stuff. I love to see the support for that because Krieger. There's a lot of love for that.
I think everybody missed them. Like, even non-guard players, just nice playing against some models that are that cool, like, every time. Like,
sure, yeah.
And I've seen so many people use them for different militias and everything like that. Like, if anything, I would love another army that's as cool as Krieg to come out.
Well, yeah, I mean, they had the Elysians, but I think they were a bit too restricted in their design, in that they were all drop troops.
Yeah.
So, trying to fit them, like Krieg can represent any guardsman and you're cool to go, whereas the Elysians had a very definite stylistic and in-game kind of effect. I think it's awesome to see them come back out. And obviously 40k players can use them as well, which is always an advantage because it opens up a larger market.
I found my absolute favorite bundle. The Death Corps of Krieg Subterranean Assault Squad. That just sounds amazing. with the digger, and then the guy with the I think it's a mine that tunnels through the ground. I forget a missile. I forget the fluff of it.
Oh, it's mind you, actually, oh blimey, some of the prices are quite steep on some of this stuff. But then if you're going to collect a resin infantry human army, they're always going to be. Yeah, there's some. Oh, it's just don't get behind me.
I always just tell people when they're interested in heresy, I'm like, don't talk prices.
Well,
just
yeah, absolutely.
don't.
Yeah.
Just don't talk prices.
I mean, you can absolutely do it in other game systems anyway. It's fine. It's cool. Yeah, the Hades breaching drill is what you get in that. Yeah, it's that's a beast. That is the most unsubtle. It's the most imperial looking vehicle. Yeah, it's completely unsubtle. So it's good to see them come back out. And we also, along with that, we got the re-release of the Gorgon, the armoured assault tank. And guess what? You can't get it anymore because it's out of stock.
It's out of stock already.
Yeah. A lot of people were waiting for this to come back in. The Gorgon armoured assault transport. And the fact it's sold out means I suspect they might be making some more. It was... So we had... Again, for people who are newer, we had that period of time a little while ago where, they pulled back on how many lines they were having. They removed some last chances to buy that weren't selling and things like that. And some people took that to mean there was going to be a general kind of reduction in what they were producing at Forge World and stuff. I think this has just shown that they're getting their house in order a little bit. GW Prime, they just did the Blood Bowl Chaos Dwarfs on a pre-order, on a order to buy, made to order. That's the words, made to order thing like that. Okay. So there's possibilities that we can have that as well. I think it's a cool thing.
Oh, the made to order stuff I really appreciated. I'm really happy that they did that. I mean, not only does it give us a chance to buy stuff, I mean, they can reap a little cash from it, and like if you want those classic models, which you can't get, like it's the perfect thing. Like I love stuff like that. I think it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good way of them making stuff because essentially the problem is no matter what company you are, you have X amount of space on your shelves. When an independent retailer wants to stock you, if you turn around and say, well, we've got 7,000 lines, individual lines, they're going to be like, I can't stock 7,000 lines. It just becomes really difficult for them to do as well. And it's daunting and which ones do you pick and all that. So there is a definite element of shelf space is an issue in terms of what they do. So, and things that don't sell very often, like it becomes this weird kind of place where, well, why do we have it set out when no one's going to buy it? But having something like a made-to-order service for very specific lines and doing it every couple of years or so, it means people don't automatically drive away to get other stuff, other alternative models, or pay exorbitant prices on eBay and things like that. It is a good thing. It's a really cool thing to see. And maybe we'll see more going forwards. Who knows? And if you want to, let Games Workshop know. Yeah, I saw over periods of time I've seen a lot of people asking about the Gorgon, and I wonder if that's meant it's come out now rather than maybe down the line because they know that people want it. So email.
It's a gorgeous model. Like I don't know if anyone hasn't seen it off the top of that. It looks very much like a World War II landing boat, except it's a tank. It's even open topped like that. It's just so cool. I really dig it. I'm glad it's back.
Yeah. It's all good. On top of models, we've got the Advent going on for Black Library, Advent, and we've had a couple of audios for the Heresy. We started with Illyrium, which is Guilliman's mum, the adopted mum, stuck in I think their spaceship's being boarded, and she's basically telling the story of Guilliman's first encounter on.
I actually thought for a second you were going to tell a Gilliman's mom joke. I didn't
No,
realize.
it's real.
It actually, no, but it sounds cool and serious, actually. It actually sounds like an interesting story.
It really
I just
is.
thought, like, I had to reel myself back. I was all prepared for a Gilliman's mom joke.
This is not a Sons of Heresy podcast.
Yes.
And it's basically, when they first sent Gilliman off to pacify a rebellion, and how worried she was about how he'd handle it. One of those pieces where there's a little bit of not action in it per se, but like a kind of in period kind of bit of Gilliman, but it's her telling the story, and actually I thought it was really good. So if
a lot of those third view characters like are really interesting, because like when you see, like, Aaron Dembski Bowden does it a lot, where you see Space Marines or whatever Primarchs from someone else's eyes, and they tell stories about what they do. It can be really fun because it can just make them seem so much cooler or so much more. This is one I would totally like want to read.
Yeah, it's and having someone who was influential and knew him better than most. Essentially, she's talking to a Space Marine who's like, "Oh yeah, of course. Well, this happened," and she's like, "Well, we weren't so sure." And to get that side of things, allows the character to puts a different viewpoint on the character as well. Because the beautiful thing about having those other characters viewing the Primarch is you then get to say he was a terrible person, or he was scary, or whatever. Not the normal view. And so it allows things like that to happen around that story.
Is this the one called Illyrium?
Illyrium, that's the one, yes.
Yeah. I totally am going to have to pick this one up.
Yeah, really good. And then the second one is called Revelation of the Word. And essentially, it's Lorgar is the word bearers are attacking this planet, and someone comes to him and says, "Look, dude, you might want to come and see this." And it's him. It's the moments that he finds out that the Imperial Church is built upon the Lictitio Divinitatis, his own writings. So, it's Lorgar, like, you what? Like, really? The thing I wrote that got me, kicked to the side. So that's a really interesting. As soon as I started reading it, I was like, why wasn't this story told already? Like, it becomes such an obvious story to tell, but it's done really well. Yeah. So, and we've got at least one more coming out as well at some point. So look forward to that. So that's all the new stuff from Forge World and Black Library. As I say, I know we talked around different subjects as well, but like not constant, but a steady release of stuff is what we wanted, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that there was a lull for a while.
It definitely was, yeah.
And that was reflected for a while, and now I feel like they're picking back up. They're getting back in Road to Thramis. I know you said you already talked about it, so I'm just going to mention it. They canceled the Weekender, which I think made everybody a little curious. But what we've seen especially since that news, is a strong showing of continuous Heresy releases every month going forward. So, I mean, that makes me hopeful as opposed to sad. I mean, yes, I'm disappointed there's no Weekender, but the support for Heresy definitely seems there, and I'm very positive in the way they're going. I think what people were used to in the beginning was Horus Heresy was such a big thing, and it was such an unexpected, I feel, kind of hit. Yeah. And everybody dragged to it. And I think it was also, there was a couple of factors. There was, that edition of Warhammer 7th edition was kind of winding down. Heresy had very strong rules. It had very strong support. And then the plastic kits came out. It just snowballed. And, I think then there was a couple of unfortunate things that happened that then ended up slowing down Heresy. And there was the release of 8th, and people shifted back. And I think it gave a very empty feeling for a while. And I feel like now it's moving back out and becoming a regular paced thing where it should have been. And I'm glad. I'm happy.
Yeah.
The amount of releases and what's been coming out has made me very happy.
And, you went to Heresy Weekenders, so
Yeah.
our view, as someone else who went to Heresy, our view is always going to be skewed more towards, they got rid of the Weekender. Again, we talked about this, but if you're halfway around the world with no intention of ever coming over just for a Weekender, then this is like, even from someone who goes to the Weekenders, I think this is a positive thing overall. I would prefer to have a more modern approach to information and Warhammer community than if we have to sacrifice the Weekender for that, then I'm kind of cool with paying that price.
Yep. And hopefully what they will do is now start folding in some panels in their Warhammer Fest or whatever. And they seem like they've been really accepting Heresy as one of their main games and have started mixing it in. I just see, again, this Black Library release, there's a couple of Horus Heresy stories that come out. And I think, again, we were so used to that, just frenetic release schedule and everything so focused on Heresy for so long. I think we got spoiled in a way. And now it seems there was the lull, but now it seems to be a regular paced thing. And it encourages me, they've embraced it. And they're okay, every month we're going to get something for the Heresy, is what it seems like anyway.
Sure. We haven't spoken about this beforehand, about this aspect, and essentially that's kind of what I was saying before. Interesting there, you talked about the having Warhammer Fest Heresy specific things, and I've mentioned on the show that in the coming soon seminars, but not the coming soon, in the Adepticon seminars and things like that, when they're talking about what they're doing with the games, that it would be great to see Heresy stuff in there. Although the one issue with that is they don't have a Heresy person usually there. They have a 40k and an Age of Sigmar person, but they do talk specialist games at these things. At the Lord of the Rings GT they recently had, they do the seminar there for what's happening with Lord of the Rings. So maybe down the line we can have a Heresy event at Warhammer World and have that there.
I think that might be the way forward. I mean, and to be honest with you, the other thing that might be happening that I don't think people might realize is they might not have that waterfall of content that they had for the first 8 Heresy books. They're on to the point now where they're developing parts of the story's unfolding in Black Library. It's just naturally more slower paced. They had so much content to just push out with all of the events and stuff from the first couple books. Now they're developing it more slowly, right? I think it's just kind of a natural thing. They might not have a ton to talk about.
Have you caught up with the information from the 40k Open Day?
No. What was
it? So Andy Hoare's job's changing. So he's going to be in charge of Specialist and Heresy.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and they're talking about once the new office space is open, employing some more people within a lot of the departments at Forge World, so extra writers and things like that as well. And it looks like Forge World will be getting some extra staff in that respect as well.
That's good.
Or Heresy, Age of Darkness is what would be under.
Because it seems like specialist games. I mean, Forge World's role has expanded, right? They've become specialist games. So, more writers and more producers of content, more modelers even will be great. I mean, it sounds like they're growing, right? And we're starting to basically get ramped back up, which is cool. I mean, it's interesting. I think we all want the Heresy to go out through, the Siege of Terra, which we're not there yet. And I can't wait personally. No. I really want to see the Siege of Terra. Who can't wait to see the Emperor on a page?
Big time. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just the whole lot, there's so much cool stuff to come. And there's nothing that Forge World have done that have shown that they want to slow down. For all the issues they've had, there's always been that kind of push forwards the whole time. So looking forwards at 2020, you're getting back into. Let's talk about what you've been up to. What have you been modelling at the end of 2019?
So I'm going to go all the way back to when the Prospero box set came out. The Prospero box set came out. I had, of course, you're a Space Wolf fan. I'm a Space Wolf fan. That was my number one army I needed to do. And I had those custodes sitting around, and the plan was always to kind of make them and eventually do like a whole Prospero force. I have Thousand Suns as my trader force. I have, Space Wolves as my loyalist force. And when this kill team thing happened at work, I was like, oh, I have these models, and like I never played them, and I was like, paint them. So I just actually the first couple ones I just kind of like painted really quickly, and I was like, oh my god, these are super fun to paint. Oh my god, these are super cool models. So I've actually started doing a little custodes force from that, and I've been working on it for my next like 2,000 point heresy force. Right. So I've actually been working on custodes, which is cool. It's terrifying because you have like 20 models, which is like what when you're playing heresy. But they've rebalanced the rules a lot. I think that was cool, and just working on a small force that is completely different is cool. The other thing I've done actually since the podcast, so that's what I'm currently working on right now, is I made a little Centurion Alpha Legion force, which was really cool. And that was mainly just because I was playing against Rob, Medwell, and Pete, and they both have Raven Guard. And I was like, oh my god, these play so much differently. Yeah. Because of all the sneaking around, the infiltrating, they were primarily shooting armies. And I was like, what is this? I always just close into close combat. So I made a Centurion force of Alpha Legion, kind of like to oppose them, since they were both Raven Guard. And that was pretty much what I did last year, was I had that Alpha Legion force. Super fun to play. And my plan is, when the Saber tank came out, I was actually like, oh, that would be a cool little sneaky Alpha Legion tank. Sure. So that eventually I might restart that after I get this 2,000 points of custodes done.
Cool.
So that's kind of what I'm working on right now.
Awesome. And are you looking at events? I know you've signed up to one.
Yes. At least. So signed up to that doubles event, and James and I are going to do it together. And he's doing Imperial Fists, and I'm going to try to get 1,000 points of custodes done for that. If that doesn't work, just through stuff taking too long, I have plenty of other forces I can use instead. Absolutely. So Space Wolves, it's totally easy to just throw those in instead. But we were like, it's the Siege of Terra doubles force. So sure. That's kind of exactly where I've been at. I've been pleasantly surprised at how fun those custodes models are to paint. I just think because they're a little bit bigger, right? Which is just they just paint easy. And they look cool on the board. And it's definitely been really fun. And the vehicles are super cool because they're just totally different looking than all the rest of the Imperial vehicles.
Do you find there's also there's not that pressure knowing you've got another 30 to paint?
Oh my god, yeah. Yeah. There's more pressure going like I only have 10 models.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes, that is something that has been super relaxing. Like I said, it kind of started organically, and like for a while I didn't need to buy anything because I had the Prospero box set. So I had like the 10 guys from that, and then I picked up an HQ, then I picked up some of the 40K models, and then I've just kind of been slowly putting them together, grabbed a vehicle and a dreadnought, and the forces, it's fairly inexpensive for a heresy force.
Yes.
I will tell anybody who wants to get into it and it's worried about money, Custodes is a interesting force. And the other interesting thing about it is, so I have friends that don't play a lot of heresy now, and they do play 40K. And one thing that I thought was kind of cool about this was it was a completely for a complete force that could go over to 40K with no wiggling around or anything. I could just use all the models. They all have rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was just super easy. I mean, yes, I've used my Marine force a few times in 8th edition to play with my friends that don't play heresy. But there's always some kind of wiggling around just because the units are put together so differently. So that was something else that excited me about this force.
Yeah,
is it
absolutely.
just could play in every system.
Yeah, and when I do that with 40k, like I've resolved to never use a mini marine in 40k. I'm, the Primaris, just the build of them, the scale of them as true, if you want to say that, true scale, just fits so much better that I don't mix and match. So I've pulled that line there, but
they look really weird because again, like, so I had the 8th box set when it came out, and then we did this kill theme thing at work, and I was like, oh, I'll make these guys some Death Watch, and I had some little Marines with it, and then I just after running them once or twice, I was all, they just look too weird next to each other.
yeah,
like,
they certainly do.
I'm just gonna run the Primaris because they're such cool models.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, I've got my Custodes are sitting there, and I will at some point buy some extra stuff that are 40k only, but just to mix in. But yeah, it definitely has an advantage of being able to be used across. I just need to get, the only thing for me is because I've got most of the sisters I'll ever need. I need to pick up a few more, but I need to get some acquisitors in at some point when I can find some cash and put them in the long queue of things to do.
Yes, that is the problem. The long queue of things to do.
Yes, yeah, which is another reason why the Mechanicum are getting sold. So because there's always too many things to do. So
it's funny that you said that about the Mechanicum because I had kind of started them before because I think they're so cool, right?
Yeah.
They're really cool, and then I kind of had a very similar outcome to you, where like I just didn't love painting them, and then like I just found myself not wanting to work on them. The ones I did get done were ones I used as like a ancillary force for the Thousand Suns. So
Sure.
I painted them for the Thousand Suns, and I got excited about that. And then I just never painted any of the other ones. So I ended up selling all my Mechanicum stuff off too. I didn't have a lot, but like it was kind of very similar.
Yeah, no, and it's cool. And this year I've got so I'm sitting in a room where currently half the floor is taken up with baby stuff because we need to paint the room. So I've only got so much room in here. I've got like 6-7 clear boxes with stuff stacked in it for various armies. I've got my display cabinet with a shed load of stuff in there, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've got my 40k Space Wolves to paint. That's cool. We're doing a Necromunda campaign. I'm getting Dark Uprising for Christmas. It's sitting upstairs. I'm not allowed to touch it, which is fine because I'm not going to touch it anyway. I've got some other bits and pieces that I need to do. Cool. I've got that whole demon army that I bought for my Ruined Storm demons to paint. I've got my Warcry stuff. I've got my Knights to paint, which I've owned for a very long time. I've got my Space Wolves to paint. I've got the rest of my Custodes to paint. I'm like, and once you start getting through all this, you're like, yeah, I just don't need to worry about buying anything right now. It's like, it's cool. Even to the point where I was like, I've been offered some really good deals, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just not going to buy it because it's going to be 2 years before I get around to worrying about it. So I'll just pay more money later on because, it just doesn't make sense forking out that cash now. You've got to say stop at some point. And
Yes.
with things like, my change of job, as I said before, it's there was a change of wage in that, and that's cool. That's fine. But it's made things a little bit tighter than they were before. I can afford to live, but I can't afford to just say, yeah, I'm going to Nova. I'll just drop the money on it when I need to drop the money on it. I now have to go, I'll have to put some money aside to sort that out. Not that I was loaded before, but I always live well within my means kind of thing. That's all. So, yeah, so I need to plan Nova and hope I can go. And I need to plan, as I say, if I want to go and buy 3-4 vehicles for my sisters, I'm going to have to do it over a period of time. Plus, I haven't even talked about Adeptus Titanicus. There's too much cool stuff.
It's a good problem to have, right?
But one thing I have done this year is I'm already signed up for 4 events in the first 4 months of next year, hoping that one of the 2 of them that are close to baby's birth are not going to get interrupted. But we'll have to deal with that as and when it comes. And I've actually signed up for, I think it might be 4 Heresy related events and 1 40k event. Plus the fact I'm going to be running Blood and Glory next year, say Nova, and there's certain other events that I've kind of earmarked, just waiting for to find out when they'll be. I think I'll be playing more events this year than I've played in a long time.
I definitely want to do more events. I mean, you're doing the doubles event, the same doubles as me, yeah. So that'll be cool, and we'll get to hang out. But I definitely want to do more events. I think like that was something that I kind of fell off doing last year because I was starting working again, like just got set up. And that's one thing where I absolutely love Heresy events. I think that they're some of the most fun events I've been to. And that's the community here in the UK is super strong with that. And I can't wait to do some more events.
Yeah, and I was thinking about running my event in Cardiff, and currently at the moment, I'm thinking I'm not going to do it. Again, I don't know exactly how much time I'm going to have with baby.
Right.
We could have a really easy baby, and Emma's very supportive. Emma will be fine if I choose to do it. She will support that, but I don't want to have to keep having her say, "Oh no, that you can go. That's fine." Like that's not right. That I'm always leaning on her to let me go. I want to be around. I want to do my bit, in my fair share, shall we say. So at the moment, I'm like, well, I'll take this year off. And that hurts because I really enjoyed doing it. But the effort and Blood and Glory this year is taking a bit more energy and effort right now because we want to do it better. And we're looking at a new venue and everything else. So there's a lot of, at the moment, I haven't had time to sit down and do a huge amount with that. And I'm like, we need to start getting to a point, we need to set goals and times to work towards that. So already I'm like, do I want to do that? Because if I do an event in Cardiff in the summer, I need to be getting that sorted now as well.
Yeah.
And then with Christmas and work and everything else. And
no, I mean, it sounds like you're doing the right thing, man. Like, focus on the events that you can and do them well. And that's,
But
and you're going to be busy this coming year.
Yeah. So someone else should put an event on in Cardiff that I can come to, is what I'm saying.
Is that? Are you saying I should?
Oh well, yeah. Well, I have suggested that you guys get involved before, but someone out there listening, please put a big event on in Cardiff. Because they're cool and I want to attend some more and actually play some games.
And it's a lot easier to attend an event than run an event.
Well, it's there's a lot less effort involved, certainly. I don't know if it's easier because if I attend an event, I'm not allowed to read the pack on the in advance.
Nobody reads the pack.
Absolutely. So so actually, it can be quite hard playing sometimes when you don't know what's going on.
If I run an event, I think I will just have the pack come out that day.
Yeah, just don't bother. Yeah,
we'll have a whole reading of the pack. I'll add an extra hour in for the reading of the pack.
Sit down and read the pack. Well, I think in some ways when Pete ran his events down in Southampton, having the little video bits at the front, which basically explained what you were doing, wasn't necessarily a bad idea because you were forced to sit and read it. But I've said before. Emma tells me off for the way I tell people to read the pack, and yet every single person around is like, no, he's right the way he says it's right, and it's kind of said with a bit of tongue in cheek as well.
I'm just laughing because you've told me off for not reading the pack before, and I'm like, whatever, Greg, it's sorry.
yeah. And you know what? And I go to events and I'm like, what time are we back for lunch? Oh, I'm one of those guys. Yeah, so we all do it. To some, the best ones when someone does come up and goes, "Oh, Greg, what's happening here?" And I'm like, "It's in the pack." And he goes, "No, I've looked. It's not." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" "Oh yeah, no, you're right. It's not in the pack." Okay, it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, you run events, you expect that kind of stuff. And Emma doesn't quite understand the relationship that some guys can have. If you're not abusing each other, are you really friends? So there's an element of that.
There's a little window into Greg's psyche right there, guys.
I think there's a lot of people who share that. But yeah, if I'm really mean to you, the chances are I don't mind you. but we'll see. So yeah, I think I'm really looking for. I mean, this has been the theme, and maybe people are getting bored of it, but this has been the theme of the last few shows. Really, I think 2020 could be really cool, cool for Heresy, and it's been weird because obviously when the podcast scene was getting going for Heresy, and even after the start, we had the I Horus and you guys and Geno 5.2, and you guys haven't recorded in a while. And Geno 5.2 have become an all games kind of podcast. I'm cutting back a little bit in the summer, in the start of next year. Other podcasts have come up, and some are good and some are not so good. But there's other people coming up who are doing some really cool stuff actually, and some interesting stuff. And it feels like the landscape has changed every now and then. When I look at who's going to a certain event, I'm going, I don't know. I know of a few of those people, but they're not the people that I know from going to events. Like they're a different group of people. And that's kind of cool in a way, but I'm wondering if we get more kind of a mix of those people going forwards. We get some people back in, we get some new people pushing forwards, and we all meet up in the middle, because it's, you always need new lifeblood, and it's always good to have some of the older crowd around as well, I think.
Yeah, that's good information anyway, because like that means, it's showing that the community is still growing, right? Like there are still people playing Heresy. There are people coming in. It's a living system, a living, breathing system, and like that's cool. And like, I love going to events and like meeting people that I have no idea before. Especially, I'll be like, "Oh, how did you paint this amazing army?" Great.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's just quite nice to find, like, people who don't know about like the stuff that happened, back when the Heresy was kicking off. Right, we've almost got to the point now where it's that second generation. So it's like, oh well, back in the day when we were, it's kind of cool in a way that we have that going forwards, and we can, and we interact and talk to each other. And the amount of times it's like, oh well, it always used to be like, did it?
You kids don't remember the Heresy Weekender.
No. So, well, that's going to be the new one, is it? Back in the day, they used to hold this whole weekend. And we used to go, and people used to complain that we were there because they couldn't get a ticket. But yeah, it's
and now we can't. No one can get tickets, and we all complain.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. They've made everything better bar this one thing, but that's the thing we're going to concentrate on. It's all fun. Awesome, dude. It's been really good to chat.
Yeah, man, totally.
And
I can't wait to see you at this doubles event coming up.
No, absolutely, and I can't wait to see what you need to get your custodies up online as you get them painted.
I will actually. That's actually that'll be a good sort of like goal for me to kind of like get back into hobbying and sort of like put them out. Maybe I'll put them out on the Sons of Heresy Facebook page so people can see them.
Awesome! I can imagine what every comment will be.
I was just, oh my God, you guys are alive!
You're back! So, yeah, bless. It'd be really good to see. And for those who don't know, your episodes are still up, and some of them aren't, a lot of what the stuff, particularly the second season, although there was only a few episodes in there, it's not based upon a single time, is it? It's
a lot of it is like about
evergreen content,
campaign, and stuff like that.
So
if you want to laugh, feel free to pop on and give it a download.
Yep, some of the best adverts in Heresy podcasting, I will say, up there with the Boys of the Golden Throne. So
nice.
Go and check them out. It's been wonderful having you, Jace.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Greg. It's good just chatting Heresy with you, man.
Cool. We'll hit some music. Joining me now, we have Mr. Neil Challis. Is that how I pronounced it right?
Yep, spot on.
Excellent. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Excellent. And we've got you on because you're one of the team that are part of. You're one of Attrition Gaming. Is that correct?
Yes. So there's currently three of us: myself, Chris, and Reese.
Right.
We have a few people that come and help out occasionally when we've got busier events and that sort of thing. But there's just three of us that do the main stuff. Yeah.
Sure. And so Attrition Gaming is or the events that I've been to one. You're down on the south coast. Do you want to give bit of info for us?
Yeah. So we're set up in Eastleigh, which is just outside Southampton. For anyone that's not local, there's one attendee who's coming from Leeds described it as we may as well be in France. We're so far south. So
yeah, those northern monkeys.
Yeah, indeed. We primarily do Horror Heresy and 40k events. We just started branching into Age of Sigmar now. But it's all going well. Yeah, we're pleased so far.
Excellent stuff. And just kind of wanted you on here just to discuss setting it up, basically. Because, should we start with... we'll do a little bit of the basics. You've been playing Heresy a while?
Yes, probably from about... Well, certainly from when Betrayal dropped is probably where it first appeared on my radar.
Sure.
I know a few people that were playing a guy called Templars Crusade 01, I think was his YouTube. It's quite popular. So I met him and he invited me to a huge Heresy game they were playing. It was about 200,000 points aside or something like that. It was crazy.
Was that the Siege of Terror one?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was just before just after the Betrayal book had dropped, I think. And that was mad. That really got me hooked. So,
yeah, that's cool. And you've been, obviously a gamer in and around that for a while.
Yeah, I've been playing 40k since second edition. I came in just at the end of Road Trader, so just the second edition dropped. And then I, as most people do, I think, sort of dipped out due to alcohol and girls, and then came back once I'd grown up a bit.
So you're old, is what we got out of that. Yeah, absolutely. And how do you know the guys that you jumped in with?
So we originally jumped in with another lad who's local and is part of one of the Southampton clubs.
Right.
And Chris runs AC Models, which is the friendly local gaming store in Eastleigh. And I met him when I went down looking. Someone had told me that shop was open. I didn't believe them. I said, no, there's no Games Workshop stockers in Eastleigh. You're kidding.
Sure, yeah.
So I walked down there, and lo and behold, there was. So I walked in and had a good chat with him, got to know him. And yeah, that's kind of gone from there, really. That was about 5 years ago. So we sort of go down there once a week. He stays open late so we can paint and chat and build and game and that sort of thing. And that's how we got to know him. That's how it sprung. And Reese was one of the customers that came in who saw me painting a Salamander's tank and took an interest, and we got chatting, and that was that.
That's cool. And you play in a local club?
I don't really get to play in the clubs very much. No, we just Chris tends to leave the shop open for us to go down and play against each other. So it's a very, very cliquey.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, I mean, we enjoy it. Getting out to clubs is quite harder these days. There's only really the one in Southampton that's local, and that's on a Friday night, which is wholly inconvenient for me, unfortunately.
Sure, yeah, and I mean, yeah, I think any group where people know each other for a period of time gets cliquey. I don't necessarily think that's the right word for it all the time, but it becomes a friendship group. So
yeah, sure.
And it's, unless you know about these groups, you can't break into them, and that's, is that really a clique? I don't know. It's not quite the definition. You're not necessarily being exclusive to lots of people for any reason than like practicality. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so that's cool. And so at some point, you then decide, rather than just enjoying your hobby time, you get to add loads of stress to it.
We did, and we do. Yeah, I think certainly before Reese was involved, we went to the occasional event. We went to a couple of 40k events and a good Heresy event that was run by the guys down in Durrington, Salisbury. But we went to a couple of events and we were quite disappointed with the way they were run. There are some very good ones, don't get me wrong. Outside of Warhammer World, there are some very, very good independent events, both 40k and Heresy events that I've been to. But there were a couple we went to that would just didn't really hit the mark for us. Poor organisation or poor tables and just a bad attitude from a lot of players there. And I know that's not the TO's fault necessarily. But, that can be mitigated through rules packs and that sort of thing. And it's just... it just left a bit of a sour taste a couple of times.
Sure.
So we all sat around at one of our nightstand at the shop and said, well, why don't we have a go at this? I'm sure we can do a better job than some of these people. We're not rules experts, but we've been playing the game for a long time. We understand how the basics work and how to write packs and we're all competent at building scenery and this sort of thing. So, we thought we'd have a crack and see what's the worst that could happen.
That's cool. So if you can remember back to that time, what were the most daunting aspects for you?
I think the hardest thing for us probably once we pushed the button and we said, right, we're going to do this. So we added the usual stuff, a Facebook page and email address and everything else. And we just put up some information. We said, right, we're going to run our first 40k event. So we scrambled around between us, thought, how many boards have we got, realm or battle boards or mats or anything else? How many tables can we actually get down? And I think it was about 12. 12 was the maximum we could push to. And that's if we used all the realm or battle boards we had as well.
Sure.
So that was quite daunting, and then it became even more daunting when we pushed the button and thought, okay, we'll start selling tickets, and then we sold out in the first day, and then the panic started. So okay, now we're actually going to have to go and do all this. Now we're taking money and everything else. So I suppose the trickiest part for me, so I don't know about the rest of the guys. Obviously, you have to ask them separately, but the trickiest part for me was venue. We need to find a venue location that was good for people to get to for transport links and so on, but also was easy access to somewhere to go for lunch and that kind of thing, because the venue doesn't provide it. It needs to have suitable tables or boards or something we could put out and that sort of stuff. And we went through a lot of places before we found the one we currently use, which we're happy with. But that was tricky because as time was wearing on, we were starting to worry about whether we were going to get somewhere.
Sure, yeah. And do amongst you guys organising it, do you easily fall into different skill groups? Was that something that happened quite quickly in working out who's doing what?
Yeah, it was I think we tried to have a bit of separation at the start. It actually happened quite organically in the end, but at the start it was, okay, you handle the PayPal payments and you handle the emails, and once we're actually at the events, you can do rules questions and you can do this and you can do that. But then we just sort of nestled into certain things that we were good at, and the other guys knew you were good at it, so they sort of left you to it rather than us trying to assign each other jobs.
Sure.
So at events when there's announcements being made and stuff, Chris is quite happy to jump up on the microphone. He quite enjoys doing that sort of thing, whereas I wouldn't enjoy it really. But I'm quite happy to sit on the other end of the Facebook page and deal with queries and rules questions and anything like that. We're all happy at painting and building scenery. So yeah, it's and Reese likes to play the occasional game for us. He's our buy player by default.
Yeah, that's cool. And from that first event you did, that 40k event, have you changed much? Did you learn a lot? We learned loads, and we said to people after the event when we were doing the wrap up, please do give us feedback. It's our first event. We were very open about it. And I would say to anyone that's setting up events, don't be afraid of feedback and don't be afraid of format changes. It's not really a place for, if I could be bold, it's not really a place for anyone who's got a bit of an ego. Just take it on board. The feedback's very valuable. And the second event that we organised, we actually announced at that event, and people were exchanging their sort of prize vouchers for tickets for that one immediately, and we sold half the tickets for the next event at that event. That's cool. Which was good. So I guess just what I'm trying to say. Don't be all, my event's brilliant, and just be thick-skinned about it and say, okay, what can we change? So we made changes for the next event, and we took feedback for that one, and we made changes and so on and so on and so on. And each time the feedback coming through to the inbox was less and less, which I took as a good sign because people were happy, and then we started getting reviews and that sort of thing. So sure, yeah, I think if you want to run an event, there's a level of ego somewhere, but but if you're doing it just for ego, there are way easier ways of boosting your ego than running events. Were you surprised then with running the events at your achievements with them? Was it harder, easier than you thought? Yeah,
good question. I don't think any of us have been shocked, really. I think we haven't had any real dramas or issues or anything to deal with. There's been a couple of occasions where things have gone wrong on the day or leading up to the day that's caused us to change what we're doing, like train strikes and people not being able to get their part of the team and this sort of stuff. And I think it's been a little bit relentless on the scenery front as we've been expanding, adding more and more tables and doing slightly bigger events. The scenery side has ramped up considerably. But we're there now. Pretty much, we've got sort of 40 tables worth of stuff ready to go, and we're going to need to push that to a little bit more than that for March for a big 40k event we're doing as well, and then a heresy one later in the year, next year that is. But I don't think anything's really caught us out essentially. I mean, what do you think? You've run events yourself, haven't you, for Heresy of Blood and Glory and stuff? Have you ever taken on a bit much or been caught out?
No, I don't think I have. So obviously you've been to events before you started running them, and would you consider yourself a veteran of events before you ran the first one?
Oh, I don't know about veteran. I've certainly been to quite a few at Warhammer World. Independent ones less so, but local independent ones I have. Yeah.
So I probably would. Like, not a long-term veteran, but I've been to a number over a period of time. And I started with a Warhammer event at the time. Mm-hmm. I felt confident that I could rules judge to a point, and I felt confident that I had things in place. And actually, I think the process of the physical running of an event is actually not that hard. Maybe it makes me sound big-headed. I don't know, but I was confident that actually particularly when you're running a tournament, I think it's different when you're running a narrative event. But a tournament runs itself just as long as everything works. Like, your problems come when things don't work the way they should be, and that's what you're there to solve. But there is work involved. I don't think at any point I've gone, oh my word, this is a lot harder than I thought. I think at one point there was, this involves more effort than I thought, which is a different thing.
It's certainly been an effort to maintain. Yeah, I'll give you that, definitely. Things like just going from the first event, the few list checks we had to do to the big doubles event, suddenly the list checks multiply considerably.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, if you're doing that kind of thing, then there's hours that are put into it that you just can't really cheat. Like, with a narrative event, it's a little bit easier because there's a little bit more leeway. Although, I mean, I think there is actually. I think there's a little bit more leeway. And one of the cheats I did was just to post lists online and have other people check them. But
that's good. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it is to a point until all of a sudden, you've got people commenting who aren't necessarily 100% sure of the rules themselves. Oh, they can't take this, and then all of a sudden you're going through a whole process of, I think they can because they've got this, and this person's saying yes they can because this rule change. It's like,
someone's whipping out an FAQ here and an FAQ there, and it's just
absolutely. And then particularly with Heresy as well, there's still quite a fair few grey areas. The old one that always used to get me was Alpha Legion. Can they take infiltration as their special rule to mean they qualify for rights of war? And there was no right answer on that. Technically, I believe there was a right answer on that. By the letter of the rule, you couldn't. But there was a belief, there was an intention that you could. And thankfully now it's all been completely cleared up. Which doesn't mean that was the way the rule was written in the first place. That's the other thing that gets me. People start citing, I was right with that FAQ, with that answer. No, they've given an answer. I think the answer is actually wrong to the original issue, but it doesn't matter. It's cleared up. That's the important thing.
We had one with the recon company right of war. Is it about how many recons British First State that comes up again and again?
That's still not solved, is it?
No, we've been quite open with people. We said, look, we'll make a ruling, right or wrong. It's our ruling, and that's where it stands. If you don't like it, that's fine. But we're not going to change it. We have to draw a line somewhere. So if there's something that's really open-ended like that, then we'll just say, no, this is what we're going to do, and that's what we're going to go with.
Sure. Have you developed documents over time, or is it nothing quite so codified?
No, we're a little bit more fast and loose than that generally. It depends what it is.
Sure.
I've got a selection of kind of event pack templates that I'm now using that detail a lot of the stuff. I really wish more people would read them. The amount of questions that I field for people that haven't read the event packs is quite staggering. And I'm always polite about it, and I say, yeah, no, absolutely, this is the answer, but that also is in the event pack. So yeah, please check there first.
Sure, I'm not that polite sometimes.
No.
So my missus thinks I'm really rude. And partly that's like the way blokes talk to each other is different from the way women talk to each other. Like to their faces, blokes are really mean, and women are really mean behind each other's backs, and it swaps around when it's the other way around. It's a little bit of that, but yeah, read the pack. My stock answer is read the pack because, and I explained to someone. Might have been last event. I said the problem is if I tell you the answer, you come back to me every time, and then if I do that for 50 people, then I get 100 questions like every round. But if I tell you to read the pack and you go away and read the pack, then next time hopefully you go, oh, he told me to read the pack, and it's also a bit tongue in cheek. I'm like, the answer's in the pack, and I have done that a couple of times when the answer wasn't in the pack because I didn't put it in there. So but. Yeah,
at the very least, it's a self-help guide, though, isn't it? It's go and look there. If that doesn't answer your question, then by all means, come and speak to someone. But
and I also know that I don't always read the pack fully, like or I read it once 3 months before the event. Then I forget.
Did you read ours, the one you came to?
I think so. Then I forget to print it off or download it or whatever. And then I get to the event and I'm like, oh shoot, what are we doing? But so there is a bit of that. But yeah, the packs are there for a reason. And a decent pack should contain all the information you need to know.
Well, I certainly try and put everything in there. There is we do get some questions sometimes that we haven't covered, particularly with things like 40k events, because it shifts so quickly with the twice yearly updates and the chapter proof points and all this sort of stuff. So sometimes I find myself going back and re-editing and re-uploading event packs to answer certain questions or things they've changed. But the heresy ones tend to be a bit slower.
Yeah, for sure. And that's two different, like 40k one. One of my perceptions of the scene at the moment, and I'm around people who go to a lot of events, is actually the game doesn't change. Or hasn't changed in a long time. Like ITC, a lot of people play ITC missions, and they change minutely. But it seems to be the same game it was 2 years ago, but different because the armies are different. But the
it hasn't changed.
They've
addressed army composition and things more than anything else.
Whereas in Heresy, each event can be wildly different in what they're doing. So we almost need to be more kind of 40k. It's almost more important because of the true competitive nature of the event. But in Heresy, you have to be more on it because every event works slightly unusually compared to each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
But how do you find? Because my first events were those tournament style ones, and I found it pretty easy. Writing a pack was pretty simple. It was like, what are the problems? Essentially. Whereas Heresy is, if you're going to do a narrative, then you start from what is this event? So how did you guys find shifting over to that?
Well, to be honest, we did try to do a 40k narrative first as kind of a test run, and that was actually, we didn't actually sell that one out. There were definitely a few spaces left for that, but the people that came along to that certainly said they enjoyed it, and we took a few things that we did there and we added them into the Heresy event that you went to, things like adding in table effects and that sort of stuff, and we got positive feedback, and that sort of thing's not for everyone, but we got more positive feedback than anything else about that, so that was good. But the 40k competitive crowd and expectations of event packs and everything else are really vastly different from the Heresy scene. It's like, and it's a cliche to say chalk and cheese, but it really is. It was quite a surprise to me. I think we had one person at the first Heresy event we did that had been to a 40k event. Everybody else was completely new.
Right.
Never been before, and they'd travelled from a lot further to come down. And the packs themselves, and as you said, the 40k competitive packs pretty much write themselves. It's just a few bullet points of this is what you need in terms of 2,000 point list or whatever it is. Don't do this, don't do that. You can't use that. And then it's a list of just suggestions on how to play sensibly and where the bar is on site and that sort of stuff. And it does take care of itself. We give out missions on the day rather than putting them in the packs because I don't like to kind of give anyone an advantage. Certain list builds, certainly 40k, lend themselves well to certain missions, that sort of thing. So we like to keep it under wraps. Turn up on the day, say good. Hopefully you built your army nice and balanced for all comers. Here are your missions. Off you go.
Yeah, I think it creates better armies personally.
Yeah, I agree.
But I understand the type of person who wants to know all the variables. But that's not me. That removes an element of my fun from events.
Yeah.
But So moving to Heresy, do all the guys who run the events play Heresy, or is it a mix of you that play?
Yeah, well, myself and Reese certainly play a lot of Heresy, and one of the lads that comes to help out dips in and out. Chris himself doesn't really play anything at all. Actually, he's just started getting into Aeronautica and stuff, but he's got a really large Ultramarines army, Heresy army. He loves collecting and painting, but he's kind of dipped out of the gaming these days. Doesn't really get much out of it anymore, apart from little board games. He's more into things like Star Wars Legion and stuff now
than fair enough.
Heresy. But he loves running events. So
that's
so
cool.
He's happy involved. And
so I went to, which I can't even remember the name of the event that I went to.
Fall of Kieran.
Fall of Kieran, that's the one. How many? What number event was that in Heresy?
That was our first Heresy event.
It was your first Heresy event.
That was our first Heresy event, yeah.
And have you run any since?
No. Our next one is in February. That's we put tickets up for that, and it sold out in about 4 hours, and he fell off my chair. So we then had to go and have a discussion about how many tables can we add to this, because I had a growing reserve list. So we did. We added. Thought, what can we do in that time frame? Worked it all out. So okay, we'll add that many tables. So we did. I think we're up to I think there's 44 players now for that, something like that. So
that's cool.
That should be quite good. I think you'll come to that one yourself, aren't you? I'm sure you run that list.
Yeah, I think so. I'm losing track of what's going on.
And then we stuck a doubles on in the calendar. We thought it might be nice to do a doubles tournament. So we put that up, and there was a little bit of a backlash. so we had we sat around and had a chat and thought, okay, we might easily fill this out with people want to go and play Heresy tournament stuff, but let's just if the guys that come to the first one and booked onto the second one want to come and play doubles and they all want it to be a narrative event, then we'll just switch it. We're not. This is where I said you got to have thick skin. Is don't always follow your vision. If that's what people want to come and play, then change it.
But also don't always listen to what everyone tells you. So there's that balance of hearing what people are saying, but understanding what you want to achieve and who's saying what, because one of the common questions I hear, the kind of things like where I'm talking, not in that circumstance, it's more clear than others, but things like regularly see, I'm thinking of running an event, who's free on this weekend? Right? Mm-hmm. And it's just the worst question you can ask, because everyone says yes. It's just like, yep. One person goes, oh, it's my wife's birthday. And then all of a sudden when they sell tickets, like 2 months later, half the people buy one. And it's like, you just can't expect that kind of thing. But there are other things as well. Sometimes people tell you what they want, and actually, deep in your heart that they don't want that.
Yeah.
But that comes with experience to a point. I think early on, if you stick to what you know. So I do think Heresy tournaments can be a thing within reason. I think it's a good place, particularly for certain types of players. I very much enjoy competitive gaming. I enjoy the challenges that puts in. Personally, not sure I want to play a Heresy tournament, but if that was the only event that I could go to for 4 months and it was local enough, I probably would, and I'd enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it's cool that you are clear enough to to see a reaction and then make a decision. And that's the thing, I suppose. It's seeing the information coming in and making a decision.
Yeah, I think if one person had come back to us and said, "Oh, I don't really fancy that because it's a tournament that's not really my bag," then we probably would have got it. But I got a lot of messages from people who've been to the previous ones and who missed out on tickets saying, "Oh, I can't believe this. Can't it be a narrative? I don't want to play, some swine that comes in with 3 Spartans." And I thought, okay, right, look, we'll change it.
I want to play
the narrative.
I want to play their narrative list with 3 Spartans in instead.
Indeed. But, we listened. We thought, okay, but I chat about it and said, okay, let's just change it back then because that's what the people want to come and play. And these guys are good. They come to the first and they booked on the second one, so let's give them an event they want to come to. Let's not change. Let's not make it a tournament.
Sure, and and there is also the fact that you've got to sell tickets. If you're going to run an event, you need, you don't want to be paying your money for other people to come and have fun. You want that event to clear its face, clean its face, should I say, and maybe even put a few pennies in the coffers for whether you use that for more terrain upkeep, tables, or just put it straight back into prizes. Or if someone makes a little bit of money off running an event, fair play to them. I haven't got a problem with that. But whatever you use that for, the last thing you want to do is be paying out 300 quid, say, every time you run an event just for other people to have fun.
Yeah, sure. I think we haven't. I think I'm right in saying this. I don't think we've taken a pound out of this yet. I think
that's fair enough.
buy ourselves lunch on the day, but everything else is basically at this point being reinvested in. And we did a lot of things. Invested in a 3D printer to help knock out scenery, and we added a lot of battle mats. The realm of battle boards we quickly dismissed as this is going to be a bit of a pain to deal with on a day and lug around transport, whereas we can just wrap up all these mats, as I'm sure a lot of other tournament organisers have done, and thought just roll these out and it's a lot easier. So that's what we've gone with. We try and make sure there's decent prizes available. But actually, a lot of people I speak to, it's interesting. I'll be interested to see what you think as well. Have not really been bothered about winning and kind of money-based prize.
Nope.
They're quite happy with their trophies and certificates and everything else. We hand them a voucher, and a lot of time they've just handed it straight back to us for a ticket, or just said, "Okay, thanks." And we've actually had quite a few that have not been claimed.
All right. Yeah, so I don't mind getting a monetary prize. I think when you purchase models and give them away as prizes, it's always, you've got to collect that army or want to collect that army, or then you're selling it on anyway. So, although it looks good that you're giving away, I don't know.
Start collecting boxes and stuff like that.
Yeah, it looks great.
We've done that.
The amount of times they just sit and then get sold on a few months later. In terms of, because it's always hard to do as well, because there's an element of if you're doing well, it's easier to talk about with tournaments, because if you're doing well, there's a monetary value for doing even better. If you are giving out prizes for anything really, there is potential for people to aim a little bit for those prizes, even if they don't realise they're doing it. It's that little thing of I could win a Spartan here. That would be amazing, and that could potentially change the way people approach the game. Like painting and stuff doesn't bother me because I'm never going to win, so I'm like whatever. But I've always said, I was at my first Adepticon. They gave the 40k main prize was a week in Mexico, $1,000 spending money, $500 of credit at store, like $500 of painting at a commission painter, and more. And in fact, the first prize was going to be a brand new car, but because of American tax laws, they had to have paid $3,000 to drive it away. In the Warhammer Hall, as it was, the first prize was a $60 start collecting box.
Right.
But no one cared about the start collecting box. In the 40k hall, they then have cameras above tables, and as the bloke who sorts the prizes out said to me, it's not because we want to stream the games. It's because if you're going to cheat, you're going to do it knowing there's a camera pointing at you. So, like, when you put a prize like that on, it can influence decisions. But I've seen, I was like talking to the American guys. It's a very American thing. In terms of stereotypical kind of first prize gets everything as well, and that kind of reward for winning. I was like in the UK, I was like, our biggest event has a big trophy.
Yeah, indeed.
Like, and people are happy to win it. They still want to win that event as much as if they had 120 quid's worth of stuff at the end of the thing, because it's winning the event.
It carries a bit of prestige.
Yeah, and prizes are cool. People like getting prizes, but I do think it's over-egged a little bit, unless it's something that's unique. So, just giving away credit, it's cool if you do it. I'm not saying you're doing it wrong. If you give away models, that's cool. If you're giving away something that's a bit unique, like we do, and trophies are an interesting one as well, because there's a few guys who play Age of Sigmar now, but they used to, the regular names always win events because they're good. All right, it's as simple as that. And every now and then you'd see these guys on Twitter having a purge of all their trophies because they've won so many. And then the painters have a purge of all their painting trophies. And in fact, painting's probably more of a thing because, the percentage of people that are going for the top painting trophies at lots of events, it's not a huge amount of people.
No.
And then all of a sudden they're literally just kind of like, well, I like this one, but these ones, I've got no space for them, they have to go. So I started doing glass tankards for a little bit, which is my preferred one. It's a bit of a pain at times. But at least for the first few events, people could go home and put it in their cupboard and use it. But even then, if I keep doing that over 5 years, then someone's got 6 glass tankards, like with different slightly geeky logos on them. Like, the other half might allow 1 or 2, but do you want 6 of them? I think it's a hard thing to get right.
Yeah, we've looked at doing other stuff like that. None of us can agree. Basically, is what it comes down to about what we should do. So we stuck with the kind of the sort of, we'll give someone a voucher and we give them the little grenades, our logos. We give a little grenade trophy out.
Yeah.
And that's something people tend to really love that. I mean, one person actually said, no, I'm not really bothered about the voucher. I'll just hang out more, but can I have a grenade?
Sure, that's fair enough. And vouchers are better in a way because then you can spend it on what you want. So even at Element, it might be, hobby products. It's like that. So that's always useful for a hobbyist. Certificates are one. A lot of places give out certificates. I completely understand that. They are, relatively cheap. They can look good. I don't care for certificates. Like personally, I won't put them up. That's just me. Lots of people do love them, and you can create things out of them. I actually gave away some certificates. With Blood and Glory, we did that actually. So no, it was at Cardiff last time. Because I think they can be cool, but it's not something that someone feels like they have to keep. So there's an option there. You don't feel too bad about, I've got a certificate. Oh, okay. I put it in a frame. They can have it if they want, or they can do whatever with it. So
we double them up, but our certificate also is the voucher. It has a little monetary value attached to it. And then if people want to hand it back and to spend it, I'm bothered about it, fine. But some people have asked to have it back to keep it. So
sure.
It's just down to personal preference.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
And I say I don't think there's ever a right answer on that. How you give out awards is always an interesting one as well. So back when I started my events, there was still quite a few events going around that were slightly tournament based, and there were definitely awards for doing well. Even the ones that weren't tournament based, there was still best trader, best loyalist based on results.
Well, we did that as well, actually, didn't we? As you did, you mentioned it on your podcast. But we were very keen to kind of sort of hand those out. Say, okay, there you go. Here's your grenade. You finish top. Annoyingly, was both the night players. So we've had to mitigate that for the next one because I don't like to see. I don't want to stop people using their toys, but I don't want people to turn up at night and just stomp everyone off the table in 20 minutes. It's just not fun, is it?
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
and in principle, I don't have an issue with someone getting an award for being the most bloodthirsty or what have you. I don't have a problem with people playing the game that way if that's the way they have fun, just long as their opponent's having fun as well. The easiest way for me was to, at the time it was just best sports was the easiest way of doing it. Okay, our best prizes are the 2 best sports, which then a lot of people took that original pack that I had, and a lot of people used it as it was, and then it started to get changed, and some other brilliant packs have come out. You can still see influences from that first pack. Some of the names of the awards particularly. But now, I do best traitor and best loyalist, and it's much more loose. It's like I will make a decision on who gets these awards based on all these factors and more. And that way, if someone is you do walk across the table and you're like, how did you win that game? Like you do have those moments. Then that might play into why I give them that award. I think just long as what you do with those is you're clear up front. I think that's the key to all these things, really.
We definitely reward sportsmanship and painting, or we like to call it best arm, because the best painted arm is not necessarily going to win, is it? If
Absolutely,
someone does really good conversions. If you remember ours, a guy called Pete Dunn won the best army for us because he converted Raven Guard Dune buggies out of land speed and stuff. It's just incredible. It's really, really good.
Yeah, and I like that. You should be rewarded for doing cool things.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll always give out awards for best army, and we'll always give out awards for best sportsmanship or best favourite gamer, or however you want to term it. But I don't know. I think we probably will continue to give out a grenade for the highest placed loyalist and traitor, just to just to acknowledge their efforts, if nothing else.
Yeah, and that's fine. But and it's fine. Just again, as long as people aren't coming to desperately ruin other people's hobby to get it, then it's not an issue, is it? It's like, it adds to the event if just as long as it's done in the right way. My first event I ran, I named the best loyalist was the Emperor's Champion, was the title of it. And there was a young lad there who Sigismund's his favourite character ever. Can't blame him for that. And his one desire that event was to win that trophy. So his whole weekend was focused on beating 5 people, not to beat 5 people, but just because he wanted a trophy with that written on it. And that was and the consequence of that was a bit of disappointment when he felt that the random draw might not have been quite so random when it actually was. And it was frustration of basically him not winning that trophy, I think, as much as anything. But that was an unintended consequence of having all that. But it's got to play. But hey ho, it's all good. So you've got a singles and a doubles coming up.
We've got 3 Heresy events next year. So we've got the singles in the one day in February, and then we've got a 1 day doubles in April, and then we've got a 2 day narrative in September.
Cool, September.
Which we're going to do as well. Yep.
What date's that one in September? Let me write that down.
Oh, you're asking. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I have to look it up.
We'll get that one up. That's fine. In September. That's an interesting one. That's cool.
Yeah, it's sold quite a few for that already as well, actually, which is nice.
Sure. And when it comes to writing packs or whatever, right in the background, are you following on from what you did previously?
Sort of, yeah. Certainly for the February one, I've gone with the same sort of format. In terms of narrative storyline, no, I've jumped somewhere else. But we do have plans to return to Chiron at some point to continue that storyline. I quite like having that sort of interwoven stuff going on. I don't want to have it just. I think if you just churn out a different one every time, then it does start to feel just a bit like a tournament dressed up as a narrative, which is kind of what we want to avoid. So I'm going to try and find a way to weave these together at some point, so that anyone that's come to certainly like the first couple or whatever, then comes to the 2 day, and there's things that influence that perhaps, or callbacks to other stuff that's gone on. That moved my hope anyway. That's
cool, yeah, because that's always a challenge as well.
Yeah,
you're right, and having it as those, like, we all want to have that kind of grand narrative that fills everything out and whatever. But it doesn't always work. B, it's not always the right choice. Have you made? Because one thing I've seen is because there's lots of different ways to choose how to do narrative, and things like pure narrative, where this event takes place in this year at this point in the galaxy, and these characters are not there, all the way through to take what you want. And then there's lots in the middle of that as well.
Yeah, we fall somewhere in between that. So I'm very much behind with my Black Library Heresy books at the moment. So I don't think I'm well versed enough to say this is taking place in this part of the timeline.
Sure.
So what we've gone for really is, okay, well, we'll construct, I'll go through some source material, find a system, whatever, that had something going on, or, invent a planet, whatever. There's enough scope, I think, within the universe to do that. And then build a storyline around something that I think would have happened during that period. Like Chiron was, the construction of a demon forge that was trying to be prevented. But I don't want to stop people using their toys. So we say, bring any character you want, bring any Primarch you want, even though narratively speaking they weren't actually there. But you can only use that person once across the whole tournament. So whoever claims it and buys a ticket, they've got that character for the tournament. No one else can take it.
Cool.
And that way helps to preserve the theme. What I don't want to see is two Horaces duking it out on table 5. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I quite like that separation.
Yeah, and that's fine. And that's that's a decision process that has to be made by every event organizer. Way I've run my bigger ones is to say that a single round is a series of fights that take place over a number of days. So yes, Horus can be in 2 places at once, something like that. And then you get the real purists who are like, well, you can't take Ferrus Manus because he doesn't make it past day 1. So and that,
yeah. And I understand why people want to do that as well. That's that's fair enough. That's just not the tack that we've chosen. I think it's I want people to be able to bring Ferrus Manus if they want to and use him on the table. He's an expensive model. They probably take a long time painting him. I understand why people want to preserve that thing, but I kind of want to allow people to bring these things and put them on tables.
Sure, yeah, and obviously your events are growing, so I think it's something that works better in a smaller event because you sometimes limit yourself. So if you do, you hear people doing the doing an Isfan event, and all of a sudden half the armies aren't available for that. So if we do an Isfan event, I can't go. I can actually. I've got my Mechanicum, but without them, because I'm going to sell them, I wouldn't be able to go. And that's fine. That's not a problem if that's the event you want to run. But you automatically limit how many people can attend your event, and you have to be aware of that. And as we've said, you said you're not making any money off the events, but I'm sure that if you suddenly were losing £500 every time you did it, then maybe your other half or whatever might be saying, hold on, what's going on here?
I'm sure there'll be questions.
Yeah, and that's absolutely fair. So all these things have to be taken into consideration. And what you seem to have is a good group of people who are prepared and skillful enough and whatever to create the tables and the terrain. And you said reinvesting in a 3D printer. Obviously, you guys are pretty sure that you're going to be running events consistently for a while. I would assume.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
Yeah, because for most people, if they want to run an event or two, buying a 3D printer might not be the way forwards.
No. I think if it's going to be short term like that, then it's a bit too much of a capital investment, isn't it? It's it's a good few £100. It's cost us quite a bit in filament and repairs and this sort of thing.
Sure.
But Chris has had it at the shop, and it's in the back of the shop, sort of running. Yeah. Every day's open to print bits and bobs for the tables, but it's worked. We've got some interesting tables out now. The 3D printed Warlord Titan crashed on the table, drew some eyes last time.
That's pretty cool. And do you have? Is there anywhere nearby that's a gaming centre that can house an event?
No, not really. And this goes back to our choice of venue. We really looked long and hard to find something that was going to suit. I know the Escalation guys a couple of years ago did something with the Jury's Inn in Southampton, didn't they?
Yeah.
And we looked at doing something like that, but the costs at the time when we were setting up were just so prohibitive. And we thought, well, if we do this and we book it and then we sell 5 tickets, we have to be able to, certainly for the first couple of minutes, eat the costs if no one comes along while we're testing it out. So the venue we use now, the Railway Institute, is we've got a really good deal with them and a really good rapport, and they're very good with us. And it's inexpensive for what it is. It's very inexpensive for us to use.
Yeah, and you've got to take that all into consideration. I think I might have said it on the show, but we were driving up to Cardiff to run my event, and Emma was with me, and she didn't say it, but in a fairly long drive, she was sitting there thinking, "Why the hell are we going to Cardiff?" Until she walked into the venue and went, "Oh, I get it.
It's a firestorm.
Yeah, it's all set up.
Yeah.
It's all there. We're ready to go."
Yeah.
And bearing in mind she's been at Blood and Glory and seen set up and pack down, and the ability to walk into an event and just be like, "Cool," is it's a powerful thing to have if you have that option. Of course, you're then limited by the venue, and obviously that venue take money. For you using their facilities and everything else, so you have to weigh that up. So, in theory, once you get to a point, you've got upkeep of terrain, but that cost, you've offset that cost early on, and then that money can be used for whatever.
Yeah, well, we're going to gradually replace bits and bobs. There's a lot of stuff we put out early on where we thought, what's the minimum required here to get this as a table that's usable for games? So as we fill out, I think the capacity we're going to get in there is, I don't know, maybe 30 tables. It's difficult. I don't want to put people in like sardines if I can help it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to start going back through, once we've got that capacity, that limit, then go back through and start replacing tables that perhaps are past their best or not really suitable, no longer suitable anyway.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And they're all things you've got to think about when it comes to putting on an event, making your players have a good time so they want to come back. It's not just a pack. It's not just a game. It's having that space, and sometimes that space can be a large amount of space to move around, and sometimes you're going to have to be a little bit tight. And gamers understand that, I think.
Yeah. Certainly anyone that's been to Warhammer World, where you kind of like backing onto people who are in the row behind you.
Warhammer World has nothing on the old Maelstrom games. Going back a little while, for some people who might know, but literally rolling off to deciding what table side I was going to be on based on the size of the chap who was behind me. And I'm not being a small guy either, but literally saying, I'm going to wait until that person decides which table where they're going to be, and then I'll make my decision. So, yeah, it's one of those things, and I think people are reasonable about that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just we had some feedback from the last event we did where we had to nestle people in snugly, let's say. And someone said, well, we would do, a deployment of hammer and anvil, and then I had to walk all the way around the row, come back up the other side. And so I understand why that's frustrating for people. It can be annoying. But I think those instances probably don't happen too often during a day. So
no, and it's that balance of, it's annoying, I would prefer you to make this better next time, but that thing wouldn't put me off going to an event. Like that individual element, but that doesn't mean that as someone going to the event, I don't want it to be slightly better, and you running it, that you don't want it to be better.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, like you say, you'd have a fully furnished, ready to go gaming centre, or in our case, we'd have perfectly assembled 6x4 tables that we can easily just stick a mat on top of. But the reality is, it's a social club venue. We have a few tables, the small square tables we put underneath 8x4 boards, and to get the most out of 8x4 boards, you have to daisy chain together and get 4 mats on 3 boards.
Yeah,
that's the reality of how setup goes once you get past the sort of 20 player stage to start thinking about that.
Indeed. So we're looking at, so you sold out for your first 2 events next year, is that correct?
The Heresy ones?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the February singles event is sold out. I think it's leaving a couple of reserves on that. We're hanging on some hope. That's good. I think the doubles event has just sold out. We kept adding tables to that because people kept asking.
Sure.
I think we've reached 40 players, and that's 20 tables. So that will be. When you've been to the venue, that'll be busy. And then the 2-dayer is going to be, fingers crossed, will be 25 tables. So it'll be 50 players.
And that's September for that.
Yeah.
And if you're into, say, 40k, you've got Age of Sigmar events, you've got a 40k event, you've got a Star Wars Legion event.
We do have a Star Wars Legion event as well, yeah. That's picked up recently. It's pretty good. We're also going to we're trying to dip into Aeronautica too, but so far that's there's only a couple people booked onto that, so we'll have to see how that one goes.
Yeah,
but we'd love to do it because I quite enjoy the game, and certainly Chris loves it as well. So it'd be good to get some people down for it.
That's it. That's cool. I need to go and check exactly what I'm booked onto, don't I? And
you're definitely booked onto February, and I think you're booked onto doubles as well, if I remember.
Definitely on the doubles. I definitely remember that. The February one might have slipped my mind for a little bit there, so I will have to write that on the calendar. But it's all good. Anything else you want to just talk about briefly before we crack on?
No, I don't think so. I think we've pretty much covered the bases. I would say anyone that wants to come to our events or is interested, please do message the Facebook page. I check it pretty much throughout the day and evenings. I'll always respond. I'll always reply if it's not the answer you want. And please do come down and see us because we're having good fun and we want to put on some good Heresy events.
Sure thing. Yeah. No, I'm a loyalist. I must read that pack and get some painting done. Try and take something new to an event.
I was looking forward to your talents list last time, so I was really disappointed when that didn't come in.
Yeah, well, that could change. I could do more talons, different talons. We'll have to see.
Well, you did earn some kudos for blinding Carbanda there. That was good.
Oh, don't. Yeah. It was, that last event was frustrating. That was Alex is an old club mate of mine. But maybe I'll come back and just blow him off with some Perils of the Warp instead. It will be good fun.
You were a popular man on the day. There were more than one person came up to me saying, "Can I go and grudge Greg Dan? Can I go and grudge Greg Dan?"
Oh, really?
I said someone's already done it. I'm so sorry, he's gone.
Oh right, yeah, because you did
grudge someone else.
You did just one grudge at the end, didn't you?
Yeah, just for the round 3.
Yeah, that's cool. And again, you can get into so many different ways to run events. Like, there's no rights or wrongs really. There's things that people will like and things that people won't like, and those will be completely contradictory if you did it with different people at a different time. So you kind of have to do the event. The way you started it, I think, is the way a lot of people start it. Is like, I've been to these events. I think I can do this or better, and it's. I mean, how do you feel? Obviously, looking at the range of events you have lined up, you enjoy it.
Yeah, it's great fun. Yeah, I love running them. If you could get the footfall and enthusiasm, I'd run them every week.
Yeah,
really enjoy it.
And it's something that I think a lot of people are kind of worried about missing out by running events. You're missing out playing. I definitely play less than, I play less events than I would if I didn't run events.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do as well. But obviously, we had the agreement earlier on because Chris doesn't play anyway. So Reese and myself will rotate through buy lists and buy games if we need to. And if someone doesn't turn up on the day, one of us will jump down and we'll play for the day. It's not.
And in fact, that's one of the biggest things. So it's almost the biggest no I have. I will forgive events for a lot of things, but if I pay money and travel, and you've promised me 5 games, then I want 5 games. And I agree. I honestly believe that, like, one of the most important things you do is you give paying people what they paid for, right? And you say, I'll forgive you if things run a little bit late and if things don't quite. If you tried a scenario and you didn't realise actually it doesn't work in this way, cool. We tried it. We can work around that. But if someone has to sit out for 2.5 hours whilst everyone else is playing, Yeah, that's not great.
No, I agree. We wouldn't do that to anyone. No one's come to any of our events yet and has not had their full complement of games.
And I mean, obviously, if there's two people running an event, and there's major illness or whatever, and everything else, that's a different story. But quite often, I've seen events run and assume that everyone's going to turn up and that kind of thing. But I will always try my absolute damnedest to make sure someone's there to play if needed.
I can honestly say every single event we've run, we've had at least one person not show up.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah, definitely. There's always a drop-off rate.
Yeah, life gets in the way.
Yeah, it's why we have one of us will jump in and play on the day, so we don't let anyone down.
Awesome. Okay, well we'll leave that there, Neil. Thanks for coming on.
No problem.
And I look forward to February now.
Yeah, me too. I've got still some work to do on tables, but I think we're pretty much ready to go.
Awesome stuff. Cheers. We might have you on again at some point in the future.
Yeah, cool. No problem. Thanks, Greg.
You've made it to the end of another episode of The Imperial Truth. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for listening on for this year as well. Just a few things to go over in this end piece. I want to reiterate again that as of January, we'll be moving to once a month on the show. If you want to change Patreon or anything like that, feel free. Absolutely understand. This is it's mainly a recording kind of thing, trying to find time to record and guests to record at the same times. Things like that hasn't been particularly easy. Maybe putting some more effort into getting the show notes good before we start recording, that kind of thing. I've had some very kind people offer to help out with various things, which unfortunately might not necessarily be the issue I've got, but the fact that let's say a handful of people have reached out to help with that meant a lot. So I want to thank you guys for that. And never know in the future. Let's say it might go back to how it was. Just need to see how things go this year, particularly, and see what happens. Who knows, right? After the last 2 years, I'm making no bold predictions about 2020 because I've had two of the kind of busiest stuff going on years of my life. And then we're having a baby in this one, so I don't think it's going to get much quieter. So, I'm hoping to get those shows out probably at the end of the month. So we'll be having a show before the end of the year. Not long now, because this is late, but we will get one out. And those shows, I suspect they're going to end up being slightly longer than these shows, but we'll see how it goes. There's no promises on anything with that. And seeing as it is a late show, you've got just a smidgen of time, if you're listening to this before Christmas, to enter the charity raffle. Excuse me, my voice is going there. This is, if you haven't heard before, it's a chance to win Golden Demon winning models. There's two of them. There's Ferrus Manus and Eidolon by Mr. Neil Challis. And we also have copies of The First Wall and The Lost of the Damned, and they have been signed by Neil Roberts, the artist, but also re-signed by the authors with a little one line on there as well. A massive thanks to Neil and to Jeff, who've ended up engineering most of this themselves. And I've supplied one of the books and kind of sorted out the hosting of it as we were. We're all going through Just Giving. All the proceeds are going to Cancer Research UK. There's nothing coming this way. It's worldwide. We're going to ship it out. Whoever wins, one prize, per one draw for each prize, should I say. And that's going to be done on Christmas Eve. We're currently sitting around £750, I think, by memory. So it might be a tall order, but I'm going to ask if we can aim for that 1,000. That would be amazing. A bit more money for charity, and £5 for a chance to win a Golden Demon model is not a bad shout. Someone will possibly win, particularly Ferrus Manus. For a fiver is quite a result, I think. Particularly bearing in mind it will be a sort of Christmas present, because you will If not, receive it on Christmas Day. You can find out if you won it on around Christmas. But if you do win or don't win, I hope you have a good holiday period, whatever you're doing, whether you support it or not, whether you follow it or not. I hope times are good, shall we say. That's the simplest way of saying it. If you have any feedback on the show, please feel free to fire it in, greg@theimperialtruth.com. Come on Twitter, imperial_truth, or the Facebook pages. You can post on there or message the show on there. All very welcome to hear from you. And as I've said through the show a few times, if you're in the UK and you're going to some events early next year, then hopefully I'm going to be around at some of those. And that'll be good to chat. But yeah, feel free to send us any questions, any ideas for topics. I've got some ideas for going into the January episode, which I need to start making some serious notes on. I've got some other stuff that's in the queue first that we'll see at some point that's coming out. That actually, once I finish this, I should probably go and do some work on, because everything's getting a bit tied up time-wise. But I think I'll leave that there, because we are going to be back seeing out the year, and that episode's not going to be out in very long at all now, with how late this one is. So thank you for listening, guys, and you have been listening to The Imperial Truth.